Welcome back to another episode of the Local Fit Show, where we redefine what healthy means to you. I'm your host, Laurin, and this week I'm joined by Coach Danielle, and we're going to cover why quick fixes don't work. And I know you guys are probably thinking, I don't need to listen to this episode. I don't use quick fixes. But a lot of us still do, even if we don't want to admit it to ourselves. And if a quick fix was available, we would probably try it. I know I have tried my fair share of them, and they always blow up in my face. And even if this isn't for you, this could certainly be for somebody else who maybe needs to hear this, because this mindset is still so pervasive. And I feel like we're kind of in this bubble where we're like, no, everybody's moved past this, but they really haven't.
Not at all, because I had a phone call with a client last week, and she was like, if I see that the scale kind of goes up a little bit, do you think it would be good to do a 2-week mini cut? And I was like, no, our goal is to get pregnant. Her goal is to get pregnant here in the future. So that is not conducive. We need to make sure that we're eating enough calories, that hormones are in check. So it's still actually very, very common, even if our little clientele niche type thing.
Yeah. And so I was, a few weeks ago, my grandma had to go to the ICU, and I was talking to one of the respiratory nurses, and she was so awesome. And she was talking about how she had gone, she's trying to lose, post baby weight, all this. And, obviously she works crazy hours at the ICU and all this different stuff. So she's really, really strapped on time, has 3 kids. But she was talking about going to one of these weight loss clinics, where they give you these shots. They basically pump you full of stimulants and some vitamins, and then they put you on a 600 calorie diet. And then she was like, yeah, obviously I knew what I was doing, but I gained all the weight back and this and that. So it's those places also still exist. And I am not I don't live in a fantasy land to where those are not going to be a thing, right? Those are always going to be there because people are always going to want those types of solutions. But let's talk through some of the reasons why quick fixes don't work. First and foremost, and probably most important, they are unsustainable. And the thing with sustainability, I think we hear this word so much now, and sustainability obviously means a lot of different things to different people, right? What I do and what you do, we could call that sustainable to somebody else that might not be, right? Or they might view that in a different way. But when I'm talking about unsustainable with quick fixes, that's 2-a-day workouts, ultra rigid diets, basically having just a small list of foods that you can eat, completely taking and cutting out things. And this is not to say that there's not times where a rigid diet or 2-a-days is necessary, right? But if you're doing that for the purpose of a quick fix, that's what we want to avoid.
Yeah. And I think too that this could be another point, not just necessarily stemming off of the one that you just said, but it also doesn't teach you anything about nutrition. So those ultra rigid, follow this meal plan diet, cool. But what am I going to do once those 8 weeks are done? Am I going to just go back to eating bagels in the morning and donuts and a Frappuccino? Because I have no understanding of what nutrition is type of thing. So
that's a really good point. Learning through this process is incredibly important. And there's nothing wrong with meal plans, right? I've changed my mind on this over time, right? I used to be very staunchly against it. As somebody who, came up in the whole IFYM craze, was no, da, da, da. And then, we literally did the research on it and saw how powerful it was for certain people, right? And I do think that there is a time and a place for meal plans, and there's nothing wrong with them if there is variety in them, right? Because it can teach people and be kind of that jumping off place for, portion sizes and understanding different foods and all that. But what you're talking about is the very, very rigid meal plan where it's basically hey, here's what you eat, and that's it. There's no deviations. And that stemmed from, I was actually on I was teaching one of the first phone calls last week. We were talking about remember the old meal plans where it was the old competition, coaching mill team
4 ounces of tilapia, 6 almonds.
Yeah, 3. I remember I saw one that had 3 noodles, bro. 3 noodles. I'm not even gonna make a pot of noodles to just take 3 out. What does that even mean? And half a prune. Oh wow, goody. Who is doing this. So, but people were, right? And that stemmed from the, the bodybuilding world. And then, but that kind of got shuffled out, and then there's just all these plans online, where people do different stuff. So it's like meal plans, again, it's not, meal plans are not the problem. The problem is a ultra rigid meal plan that you don't learn anything. There's nothing wrong with doing 2 days if that fits your lifestyle, your goals, what you can do. For 90% of people, that's probably not going to happen, and nor does it need to happen. And I think really that's what the problem with the quick fix mindset is, that, oh, well, I'm going to get on this now, so I have to go from doing no activity to training 2 times a day. And then to your point, it's like, well, what happens after? Like, okay, afterwards, now I'm going back to drinking frappuccinos and having croissants for breakfast, and I'm also now not exercising or not going for walks. Like, is that what we're going to do now?
Exactly. Yeah.
And then the part about it being unsustainable, you at some point are either going to get off of the plan, you're going to fall off of the plan, right? Like, it's either the plan is over, right? It could be like an 8-week thing, or it could be a 6-week or 12-week thing. Or even it could be coaching for a certain amount of time, right? And then it's really, really rigid, and then it's over, right? Or you fall off of the plan. And then what happens is, because it was unsustainable and you fell off or you finished it, now when you go back to those old behaviors, you feel like a failure. When you feel like a failure, then you create all these cascade of negative consequences and things that you tell yourself, and then other behaviors that you're going to engage in afterwards.
Yeah, the behaviors that you do when you feel bad to make yourself feel better. So I feel stressed, so I'm going to grab there. I mean, people who are following these ultra rigid diets for a short amount of time, who are looking to get a quick fix, typically have patterns of, okay, when they're stressed, they're going to do emotional eating, and they're going to gravitate towards, okay, I'm going to have 3 Oreos. Maybe it's probably more than 3 Oreos, but they're going to sit there and have a bunch of this gluttonous food because it makes them feel better. So now you're spiraling into, okay, well, I just finished this 8-week strict diet. I did really well, but now I don't know what to do. So I fell back to what I did in the past, and now I feel bad. So now I'm just going to continue spiraling into these like negative habits and bad patterns of eating and not moving, because social media makes me feel better than going outside when it's hot and walking. And then you're just like now gaining 50 pounds when you lost 20, and now you're even bigger than you were before, and your metabolism's suppressed. It's just a whole spiraling effect of why these things are not sustainable long term.
Yeah. And then when you're going for that short-term dopamine fix from something that you are not working towards, like social media or high calorie food, it's very different than getting the dopamine surge from something that you did, like going for a walk or exercising or accomplishing a task. Very different things. This is not to say there's anything wrong with high calorie foods. There's nothing wrong with social media in the right amount, right? Which is, again, a whole different kind of discussion. But when we're talking about falling back into these behaviors, now you're creating that mindset for yourself that I'm a failure. I can't stick to a plan. This is who I am as a person. I'm always going to be at this weight or this body composition, or I'm going to be unhappy. And that's how people start to create those stories and that narrative about themselves. And that's what carries them for the next 10 years of chronic dieting. And that is exactly what we were trying to fight and fix as a company, because that is literally what we see over and over again. And there's so many times where that person's mindset is literally what is dragging them back down. And I mean, there's so many different things where mindset is so important, but especially when it comes to this, because if you don't see yourself as someone who can successfully be on a plan, you're not going to be. So, and it's understandable why you wouldn't feel successful or feel like a person who could do that if you continuously fall off. But that's when you have to reevaluate, okay, what are the methods that I'm using? It's kind of like the diets don't work. Diets work. The diet you were doing didn't work, right? It didn't take into consideration what you're doing before and what you're doing after. So that's really what we have to reevaluate when we're talking about these quick fixes, whether it's exercise, supplements, training, whatever it is, right? Or a combination of them. There's anything that's basically like, how would we categorize like a quick, like, how would we spot that for somebody? Like something I feel like that's like the promises are so like extreme, right? Like if you are like, Okay, hey, I'm
50 pounds in a week. Those like newspaper articles,
oh my
or
God.
magazine articles.
Every time I go to the grocery store and I see that stuff, I'm like, who is keeping these people in, like, who's keeping Women's World in business? I gotta know. Is it only Publix? Because the only people I like Publix must just buy it and then just like trash it at some point and recycle it. I don't really know. I'm like, who is keeping these magazines in business? Like every time you walk by, it's some crazy shit like fix your thyroid with this soup. You're like, bro, no, like, like okay. And I'm like, maybe if I bought I'm not even give them my money, but maybe there's some nutrients and like minerals in there that help support your thyroid. Like, yeah, like that's probably what it is. But it's like the ultimate clickbait marketing where you're like, this is literally not true. So yeah, anything that's like super extreme, anything that promises like really outlandish results, like basically the more extreme something sounds, or like the better it sounds, probably like have your bullshit detector on and be like, all right, this might be too good to be true. And there are some things in life that are too good to be true that do end up working out. But generally speaking, when we're talking about dieting, and achieving a healthy physique and just like health in general, like internal health, that is a long process.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. I'm like, what other things would be like to look for with like a quick fix?
I mean, there's marketing right now too, like not marketing, but TikTok videos that are like follow Kelly Ripa's diet. Like those are quick. I mean, let's follow supermodels diets who I don't even like are super low calorie. I don't even know how they do it. My
Are they
mom,
really doing it?
you're right. I mean, maybe not. She had one chocolate covered almond for dessert. One chocolate covered almond. And my mom's like, well, these people have like personal trainers and private chefs. And I'm like, still, if I had a personal trainer and a private chef, I would not be able to have a green smoothie for breakfast and then a green apple with cinnamon for my breakfast and then just a salad for lunch. And then her dinner was like grilled asparagus and 4 ounces of fish. Like I would be starving. I would
I'm
be
very concerned for Kelly Ripa all of a sudden.
I would be like I would be a disaster of a human being because I would just be so grouchy. So those like let's follow these supermodel diets, or she's not even a supermodel. Let's follow these celebrity diets. That's like a quick fix. I always feel like
Yeah, no, that kind of stuff for sure. Or like, add in this food or this
the
drink.
apple cider vinegar.
Oh
Yep,
my God, that still cannot be a thing. Like,
it is. It is.
yeah. Hey,
This is why you
everybody.
need TikTok to debunk all these things.
You're right. You know what? Hey, everybody. FYI, I'm getting on TikTok. And you know what? Send me shit like this and I will cover it on TikTok because I live under such a like rock that I'm like, absolutely nobody would think that this is going to work.
People still think like just because you put ghee or MCT oil in your coffee, like you're all of a sudden healthy. There's people still out there who
Yeah.
think
Hey, this podcast is for you guys. So yeah, if you find any crazy outlandish videos though, please send them to me because I will debunk them in a nice way. I feel like a lot of people who do these debunking videos are very rude and I will not do that. I'm not attacking the person, I'm just don't appreciate the method. And then lastly, when it comes to why quick fixes don't work, and you touched on this a little bit before, Danielle, the more extreme the measure, the more extreme the rebound. And this is just the way that it works. Like this is just like a law of how like our bodies and our system and the world works. Anytime something swings one way, it is going to swing harder and harsher the other way. So if you are going from, eating all different, like you're just going from eating high calorie, haphazardly, inconsistently, whatever, and then say, you know what, I'm dedicated to this plan, but I'm going to slash everything. And let's use that example, like the most extreme. I'm going to go and I'm going to get these stimulant and vitamin shots, and then I'm going to be on a 600 calorie diet. Okay, that's pretty extreme, especially from what someone was going to. After that is over, because that is going to have to be over at some point, or you follow Kelly Ripa's diet, whatever, which sounds absolutely horrifying. Please do not follow that for 1 second. She had like 30 grams of protein all day. If you follow something like that for 6 weeks, afterwards, that rebound is going to be so much worse. And the more that you do that, the more that it compounds. And I know I've talked about this on other podcasts before, but like these adaptations compound, and it's not something that just goes away. And the more that you do it, the more that it's going to compound, like anything that's just how compounding works, right? And I don't have like a scientific measurement of this, so to speak, but it's something that I see with our clients over and over again. And the longer somebody has been dieting and the longer that history of restriction and overeating and that just chronic cycle continues, it's going to take us longer, which is really frustrating. And I understand that, but being extreme is not going to get us out of this.
And I don't, and what is even sadder too is I don't think people still understand that this is a thing. And they'll be like, oh, well, I did one reversing phase. I should be fine now. And I'm like, no, but we had 16 years of you yo-yo dieting and being under 1,200 calories and then blowing it out the water because spring breaks over and now you don't have to diet anymore. And then you did it again for summertime and then it was winter and you ate, 3,000 calories. Those over 16 years is not going to get fixed by one reverse phase. So I see that all the time, especially with bikini competitors that have done it for like they did, 7 years of competing in a row. And they're like, I had one reversing cycle with you. Like I should be fine. And we're really struggling this dieting phase. I'm like, you're not recovered though. We really shouldn't even be trying to do a show right now because your body's seeing like, we've been dieting for 12 weeks. We haven't lost any weight and we're at 50 grams of carbs right now. This is not the time to continue pushing to do a show. So you talk about it all the time. People talk about it all the time, but it's still something that a lot of people don't fully grasp, I feel like.
And I think part of that is because we don't want to grasp it, right? Like we hold on to things that we want to be true, whether we understand them or not. And, that's just kind of how our brains work, right? We try to cling on to things, even if like all of the evidence points one way. We're like, nope, I feel this way about it. I want it to be this way. So I'm going to keep myself here. And those expectations are what always let us down inevitably, like in every area of our life, but especially here, because if I just enter this one more diet phase, I'm going to make it right this time. And it's like the way to make it right is not by being in a calorie deficit. The way to make it right is also not by eating whatever the fuck you want and gaining a bunch of weight because your body is in a pretty sensitive place. So that is not the goal either, right? I think that people hear, well, I'm not dieting, so whoop, and then they just want to go all the way the other way on that side of the pendulum as well. And it's like, no. We actually need to find a middle ground. And most people do not actually know what a true maintenance is because they've never been there. They're either under eating or overeating. There really is no kind of middle ground for a lot of people. And that takes time to find, but that is where the magic really happens. And I just started with a client who she wants to typical situation, off and on dieting for a long time, wants to lose body fat, but has been pretty inconsistent lately. And I was like, well, we're not in a position to do that yet, and I know that's what you want to hear, but we need to take at least a few months, and we'll have to see how you respond. And even just in the first week, right, of eating a little bit more, of being consistent, her body's responding better in almost every area. And it's like, all right, I'm choosing this hard now because I know what my end goal is. And this is not where I want to be, but I know that entering another dieting phase is not going to get me there. And sometimes it takes us a really long time to realize that, but that is where the real work starts to happen when you're actually able to find that maintenance. And the best part about that is now, and the same client talked about that, okay, now I have, this is actually easy, right? Like easier, so to speak, right, than going up and down. And so now I've freed up this time and this mental energy to dedicate to other things, to my work, to my personal development, to all these different aspects of my life. And that's what the whole magic of like maintenance really is you're able to maintain, but you're able to now work on other areas of your life as well. And you can't do that when you are in the middle of a quick fix type scenario.
I use Karina as an example all the time because it took her like 5 years. I don't know the exact timeline. It took her a long time to finally get to the place where she is now. And I wouldn't even say that she can like willy-nilly maintain this because she fucking trains really, really hard. But if people were to go and look at her journey, it's a perfect example of someone who did extreme dieting and took a really long time to finally get to the point where she is now. So it's not something that's quick. I mean, that's a 5-year time frame is a pretty long time for someone who wants to lose weight. Like you're telling me in 5 years that I'll be able to finally look the way that I want to look. Like, yes, I'm sorry, but yes, if we want to do it the right way, we need to take the time.
And yeah, Karina is an amazing example of this. And, I would say, yes, she does train really, really hard in almost every capacity, but the training is not really maintaining her weight, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like she really is like eating and training for performance. So I think she actually is in a spot where it's like, she's not doing that to like work it off, So
Correct.
she's in a really great actual maintenance spot. And I mean, even for myself, like it literally took me after my last show season in 2018, like coming up on 4 years, holy shit, of not dieting. But like now, I didn't have a maintenance, like I literally have been dieting for almost my entire life
Mhm.
and it didn't have a maintenance. I didn't know what that looked like. I kind of had a rough idea. But I got very caught up in the like compete, okay, off, compete. And I would do very long preps. So I would have short off seasons, you know what I mean? But so afterwards it was like, all right, where am I going to settle? Like, I really don't know. But now finally, I'm pretty comfortable at a weight that I never thought that I would see, like non-dieting, right? Like I can maintain now between 150 and 155. Like I woke up today, I just weigh myself every once in a while just to see kind of where I'm at to make sure I'm not like under eating too much or overeating too much. I was at 150 and I'm like, this is totally normal and sustainable for me. And I never thought I would be here. So
After 4 days of binge drinking.
listen, we like to party at First Form. It's my favorite thing about everybody there. Well, a lot of favorite things, but so I'm recording this after Summer Smash. Well, we actually had to change the recording date because literally I had no voice last week for us to record this. But Summer Smash is amazing. If you guys don't know, every year First Form puts on this huge event called Summer Smash. Basically, they're back in the day.
It's like
What?
a rave. It's like a rave, like a concert rave.
Well, that's like actual Summer Smash, but it's like a whole 3-day event now, So like we have multiple days, we train every day, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, like as like, there's group workouts in different places. And then we go out, every night and like, meet, greet, talk, you know, drink, do whatever. We have a really great time. And then because First Form wanted to, so like back when like fitness expos were a big thing, you would have, the athletes and everybody who was associated, like be standing there and people would wait in line and talk to them and whatever. And anybody listening who used to go to the expos, like, what I'm saying. And they were great. It was a great way to meet those people, but it always felt like very separate. Whereas First One wanted to make it more of like, a family and like an actual like event where you can meet people. So literally the entire weekend for 3 days, you can train and talk and drink and dance and do whatever you want with all the people. Like there was thousands of people there. Like it was absolutely incredible. And then Saturday, like actual Summer Smash, Sal talked and then Andy gave a talk. And then there's a bunch of just different like vendors and some games and whatever. And then Pitbull and Diplo both performed this year, which was absolutely insane. I danced the entire 3 hours. If anybody was there, I'm sorry about how I was acting, but I was having the best time.
And you don't dance.
I don't dance. I was like, I do not care anymore. This is so fun. And Pitbull was so good live. So, and obviously, I mean, I love Diplo. I knew that was going to be amazing, but like Pitbull actually surprised me how great he was live. Anyways, so yeah, so I don't know why did I bring this up?
Because I said you had 4 days of binge drinking and you still woke up at 150.
Yeah, and I had to let you guys know that was not a normal situation, and that was for Summer Smash. But yeah, that is a great point though, right? I mean, even there, I've gotten to a place where, okay, yeah, obviously we trained every day, but my diet was not perfect, but I made the best choices possible with what I had, and then was still able to drink, which I just drank tequila, so that's probably why. Tequila, soda water, or shots all weekend. Calorie mixers. Story of my life. But yeah, you can maintain at some point if you do this right. But that took me now, like we just said, almost 4 years to get to this place. So that was no quick fix. That was just developing the right habits. And anytime I was really tempted to want to say, hey, I really want to change my body, I just knew, I could just feel it, like I wasn't in the place to do it. And now it's just been happening with just a tiny bit of effort. So it's pretty exciting. So all in all, quick fixes do not work. They may be very quick. They might work for a week or two, but the rebound that you're going to get from a metabolic and a hormonal place, and really also a psychological place, are not worth any of the benefits that you're going to gain in the short term.
And I do have just like a question. So, you brought up in the beginning those like weight loss clinic things. What are your thoughts on those appetite suppressant, like prescription pills that they'll prescribe people?
I don't know anything about them, to be honest.
So I have a older client, like an old client who went to one of those weight loss clinics. He really struggles, like he does really great. He's super rigid. So I guess not really great, but he's super rigid Monday through Fridays. And then weekends, he'll like blow it out the water. And he quote says that, well, I used to be able to do this and have weekends, like be kind of my cheat weekends. And then I would still lose weight if I was on point Monday through Friday. Well, obviously now, after years of doing this, he's not able to do that anymore. So he went to a weight loss clinic, got one of those pills, and he takes them half a pill on the weekends to kind of control his overeating tendencies, because it's not really a I'm super hungry type of thing. It's more of a I want a break from my tuna and tilapia and weird food items that he has Monday through Friday. Um, and I mean, it worked. So my thought is, well, once he stops that,
Mhm.
what's going to happen is he's not going to be able to control, because he's not actually developing the actual mental willpower to say no to these sweet rolls and conic and all these other gluttonous foods.
Yeah, so part of it's not even just willpower, part of it is just the actual habits, right? Like you're developing the habit and the mindset to say, I either don't want this or don't need this right now. A lot of times when people are presented with those foods, what happens is if they haven't had them, they think, oh, they have that scarcity mindset, like I have to have it now. And I can't see it and not have it because I don't know when I'm going to have it again, which in reality, we all know we could have that at any time, most likely, unless it's something like a Christmas special that, your grandmother makes you, like obviously things like that. But when we're talking about daily foods that you could really have, what happens though when you approach it with that scarcity mindset is that you see it and you think that you have to have it. So you're not creating the behaviors to say, hey, I can moderate myself around this. And that really is the most important thing. Because sometimes, yeah, you can have it. And sometimes you probably shouldn't, and you should be able to say no. But that is really hard to develop when you're not trying. However, I would say that sometimes people do need a win, right? People do need to string together a few weeks or maybe even a few months of being in the right place. And I think that medications like that can be useful if you're coming at it from that place. Like, hey, I know that I have a problem on the weekends with these foods. I'm going to use this to supplement what I'm doing right now to help me manage my diet. But my goal is not to use these forever. My goal is to, string together some wins here and then eventually be able to transition away from that. So I think that if somebody were to handle it in that sense, it would be effective. But if you're just using it as a way to mask how you're feeling in that moment, then absolutely not, right? It's just like, trying to think of another situation, okay, like alcohol, right? We just talked about alcohol. Alcohol, obviously, for a lot of people, you feel great. Hey, I need a drink right now, right? And you're going to use this as a way to cope with your problems by not coping with them. There's nothing wrong with having drinks, clearly, right? Like I fully support that. But if you're using that as a way to not address something and to just cover it up, well, then obviously we know that that can lead to a whole different cascade of problems in and of itself. So I think that it's not to say that those are right or wrong. It's more about how is this person using them and how do they plan to use them in the future? Like, is there a plan? And that's kind of one of those things like that goes back to a quick fix. There's really no plan. The plan is I'm going to get on this plan. And then at some point it's over. Like that's not really a game plan. It's not a strategy. That's not a lifestyle. Like let's make it a lifestyle sounds really cheesy, but it literally is what we're trying to do here. And if we're just using things to mask it, again, hey, are we talking about the end of prep and somebody, people are doing weird shit when they start heavy dieting, right? Like I know people who like crush nicotine during contest prep. I'm not going to say that that's healthy at all, right? Like it's clearly not. But is that going to get them through the last few weeks? Maybe. Is that better than them overeating? I don't know. Maybe. I'm not supporting it. I'm just saying that people do that. Or, taking 1,000 mgs of caffeine a day. That's not good. But when you have 7% body fat and you can barely get out of bed, well, you might need it. You know what I mean? So but that's not necessarily a quick fix. Like that has an end goal, right? So that's really what the difference is. When you see people doing extreme things, you have to say, okay, what are they using this in context of? Is this for, an extreme sport or an event or something that has an end goal that they're very aware of and they know what their behaviors are doing? Or are they just slipping into this because this is the easier way to cover things up? So at the root of it all is really the mindset and the intention behind it. And that is what we have to get to, understanding with the client.
No, that makes sense. And I think that's what he was trying to accomplish with that. But there's definitely some people out there who just take it because they don't know how to control hunger. They don't have the habits. And then once the pills run out, they didn't learn anything. So
it's just, and again, we did a podcast with Rick on labeling, right? Is labeling helpful? Is it hurtful? It's kind of the same thing here, right? Is it helpful to label a diagnosis for some people? Yeah. For other people, are they going to use that as a crutch? Yeah. So are some people going to use things like appetite suppressants to help them string together some wins and to move forward in a productive way? Yeah. Or are other people going to say, I don't know what to do. I'm so overwhelmed and fuck it. Let me just take these pills. Not going to have the same outcome. So same diet, same, supplement, different outcome because of your mindset.
Yeah.
So like we said, if this is not necessarily for you, we would really appreciate you guys sharing this with someone who maybe is in this mindset of wanting to use quick fixes and maybe doesn't understand why they should not use those. So as always, we really appreciate you guys sharing and listening, and it's the best way to support and grow our show. So for more information about our coaching services, you can visit teamlookofit.com, and you can also subscribe to our newsletter on the website as well, and you'll be the first to hear about our new app that is coming in the next several months. So thank you guys for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.